Okay, so today we are going to have a look at the Kedah Trial Paper 2 English SPM 2025. Let's have a look at the requirements for each section for this paper, and how do you get the marks, the content mark or requirement mark, whichever term you prefer. So for part 1, email question, you receive an email from your friend Ikram who needs your advice on something. Hi, I'm going on a camping trip with my classmate next month. I'm preparing all the necessary items right now. Okay, these are just contextual points. There is no question yet. Knowing how often you go camping, I need some advice from you. What are the things I must bring with me? So this is the first question or requirement the email is asking us. Where can I get them? This is the second one. Any tips to make our camping a safe one? And that's the last one. I hope to hear from you soon. Bye. So write to your friend in about 80 words. Okay, so the detailed version of the requirement or content. If you notice, what are the things I must bring with me? It's a plural question, therefore it is mandatory for you to give a plural answer, aka more than one. The safe answer should be two. You can go more, but be careful of exceeding the word limits, doing grammatical errors and such. And where can I get them? It seems very straightforward, but don't forget to mention the name of the shop. It can be a made-up name like restaurant, Pak Mat, or whatever it is, but it has to have a name. Okay, it can be a made-up place, so don't worry about that part. Any tips to make our camping a safe one? Uh, I wouldn't say this is mandatory, but preferably not an item, because you already answered items or things that you are bringing in the first requirement. So for the last requirement, requirement 3 or content 3, it is easier or rather safer for you to say things like don't go alone out in the jungle, or bring a friend before you go somewhere. Okay. So let's have a look at the sample answer I have here for you. So hi Ikram, I'm glad to hear about your camping trip. Just a simple greeting to reply to your friend. There are a few essentials you should definitely bring. Okay, a sleeping bag, torchlight, insect repellent, and a first aid kit. Okay, if you don't like to use this punctuation, you can always change into such as a sleeping bag, one item, torchlight, second item, insect repellent, and a first aid kit. So these are all answering the first requirement of bringing more than one things to bring with him. Okay. Besides, you can easily find this at outdoor shops like Decathlon or even bigger supermarkets. So this is the second requirement answered. Personally, I believe you should always keep food sealed to avoid attracting animals. Okay, this is not a thing you have to bring, just an extra things that you need to do. Never wander off alone, like I said earlier, and make sure someone knows your location in order to stay safe. If you follow these steps, I'm sure you'll have a great time. Okay. I would like to highlight in the second requirement, where can I get them? Some of you might have answered. You can buy them at a hardware store near your house or things like that. Be careful. Sometimes the requirement of the question is a mandatory name of the store as well. So you should include the name of the store to be safe. Okay, so if you can do all this with some personalized cohesive devices you can use, like personally, or the standard cohesive devices like besides, some conjunctions like and, because, and things like that, should net you a full mark for email. Okay. Okay. Just now we have done the email question for Kedah Trial 2025. Now we move on to the second compulsory question, part 2, question 2, which is the guided writing. So the question is, your class has been discussing various local foods and your teacher has asked you to write an essay about it. You should include content number 1 or requirement 1. Write about the local dishes Malaysians are famous for. Okay, again, I highlight just as we did in part 1 email. It's a plural question because they ask you local dishes, meaning you have to give more than one food. Number 2, talk about where can you find more about these foods. Okay, the highlight here, the highlighted word here should be find more about. Okay, this is what I would say messes with the candidates line of thinking, I would say. Uh, it's not asking you where do you buy these items, where do you buy this food, but where do you find more information about this food rather. Okay, so we'll go through later in the example. And then the last requirement, content number 3, should be explain why traditional dishes are important. Okay, use all the notes given, write your essay below. Okay, that's the standard rules. Okay, so let's have a look. Malaysia's culinary heritage is celebrated worldwide for its remarkable diversity and depth of flavor. Chief among its emblematic dishes is nasi lemak. Okay, that's the first one. Widely regarded as a national staple, in which rice infused with coconut milk is paired with sambal, anchovies, peanuts, and egg. Equally well known is satay, that's the second food, where marinated meat is grilled over charcoal and served with a rich peanut sauce. Moreover, Penang has become synonymous with specialties such as char kway teow, a smoky stir-fried noodle dish, and asam laksa, a tangy fish-based soup that exemplifies the layered influences of Malay, Chinese, and Indian traditions. So we have about 4 types of dishes, aka we are already answering this first requirement. Okay, so the second one, for those wishing to explore these dishes in greater depth, the Penang Street Food Museum offers an invaluable resource. So this is touching on the second requirement already. It not only documents the historical evolution of hawker culture, but also illustrates how colonial and migratory exchanges shape local recipes. Likewise, digital platforms such as Rasa Malaysia provide step-by-step cooking instructions, cultural notes, and culinary tips for home cooks. Okay, so these are 2 of the different places where you can learn about these dishes that we have mentioned earlier, so, in requirement or content number 1. All right, this is not the place where you buy this food. Okay, so what you can do is you don't really have to figure out a museum if it's not in your idea at the time. You can always say that we can always buy this nasi lemak at restaurant Pak Mat. It is the most popular restaurant in Kedah, for example. You can also learn from Pak Mat himself how he has perfected his recipe of 6th generation. Let's just say that. So you learn the information from there. You can also buy the thing from there. Okay, so this actually answers requirement number 2. If you only mention I can buy nasi lemak at restaurant Pak Mat and stop there, you will miss out the mark for requirement number 2, which is where can you find more about this food, not where you can find more of this food, for example. Okay, the different position is what threw people off. And the last requirement, the last paragraph, beyond their flavor, traditional dishes are vital because they act as cultural anchors. They transmit collective memory, foster social cohesion during festive occasions, and reinforce national identity. In this respect, food transcends mere sustenance, becoming a living embodiment of heritage. So this is the reasons why traditional dishes are important. Okay, when they ask you why, they want you to give the reason. You can make your own reason. You can make it as detailed as you want, but that's basically the gist of it. Okay, so that is the end for question number 2. Right, next we go on to part 3, questions 3, 4, and 5. I will share all the 3 questions, but usually you remember you have to choose only one. You don't have the time or space to do all 3, so please don't do that. Alright, so the first one this year, we have article. Alright, so article about books, the ideal gift for every occasion. So requirement 1, state which types of books make perfect gifts for teenagers. So the type here will include the genre of the book, the type of the book, at least one. Can give more, up to you. Give reasons why books are great as gifts. So this one you have to give more because give reasons, plural. So they want to have more than one. Okay. Suggest how giving books as gifts promotes reading habits. Okay, at least one way how giving books promotes reading habits. Okay, it has to be stated clearly. Most of the students fail to do so. They just say that giving books is a good gift, giving activities or something like that. Please highlight how it promotes reading habits very clearly in your essay. Okay, so we have the title, the author's name, so we call this the byline. I mean, last time we have format marks for this, but now no longer. But it does help make your article look a bit more professional. Okay. So let's begin. In an age dominated by digital gadgets and fleeting trends, books continue to stand out as timeless and meaningful gifts. To begin with, they are especially suitable for teenagers who are at a stage of curiosity and self-discovery. For instance, fantasy and young adult novels filled with adventure and personal growth provide both entertainment and inspiration. Okay, we are answering the first requirement. At the same time, motivational or self-help titles can offer guidance in coping with academic pressures or social challenges. Furthermore, graphic novels or illustrated books appeal to those who prefer a more visual style of reading, thus widening the reach of literature. So we actually gave more than one of this genre or type of book, so that's okay. They didn't specify you have to give only one, so it's fine. Next, one reason why books make such a valuable presence is that they are deeply personal. A careful selected title demonstrates genuine thoughtfulness. This is the first reason. In addition, unlike fashionable accessories or electronic devices, books do not lose their relevance over time. So the second one. On the contrary, they can be revisited at different stages of life, each reading providing fresh insights. Equally significant, books stimulate the imagination and expand knowledge. This is the the third point given. More than one is already enough, but three is better. Giving them a depth of value that material objects often lack. Next paragraph. Moreover, presenting books as gifts is an effective way to cultivate reading habits. Okay, just a highlight of the third requirement. But how? We check the next sentence. To elucidate further, a book is not merely an object but an invitation to explore new worlds, and being gifted one encourages curiosity. Teenagers who receive them may even be introduced to genres they would never have chosen independently. Okay? As a result, not only do they develop curiosity, but they also are able to broaden their perspectives as well as their literary horizons, which coincidentally also strengthen their language skills. What is more, receiving a book as a present creates a sense of value and importance, making the act of reading feel personal rather than obligatory. On top of that, books are lasting items that can be revisited or shared, reinforcing the habit through a repeated exposure. Ultimately, the experience of receiving and enjoying a book builds positive association with reading, transforming it from a duty into a source of joy and inspiration, and paving the way for lifelong engagement with literature. This is quite a lengthy explanation. You can do slightly less than this, but basically this is what promotes a reading habits required by the question. In conclusion, books are not only ideal gifts for every occasion, but also enduring investments in creativity, identity, and lifelong learning. So it's quite longer than expected because I explained a bit more here. But basically, that's how you explain this requirement. Gift promotes reading habit. This is the tricky part, I guess, of this section. Okay, for article. Alright, we are still in part 3, question number 4. This time we have review. Okay. We are interested in finding out about the best nature documentary in Malaysia. So I guess it's a documentary review. State the name of the documentary program. That's requirement 1. Would you recommend it to others and why? That's the second content or requirement. Do you think watching a documentary is beneficial for students? So that's the third one. Okay, let's write our review. So I have a sample here already done. Okay, when it comes to nature documentaries produced in Malaysia, Borneo Jungle Diaries truly stands out. This series, filmed in the rainforests of Sabah, follows researchers and conservationists as they study orangutans, clouded leopards, and other rare species. From the very beginning, the program captures viewers with breathtaking cinematography and compelling storytelling. In particular, the close-up encounters with endangered wildlife provide both wonder and urgency, reminding us of the fragility of our ecosystems. So basically, we already answered the name of the documentary. That's the first requirement. So these are some of the reasons why this is a good documentary according to us. So it's still not complete for the second requirement yet. We have to continue. Let's check the next paragraph. Without hesitation, I would recommend Borneo Jungle Diaries to a wide audience. On the one hand, it offers sheer entertainment through its dramatic visuals and adventurous fieldwork. On the other hand, it raises awareness of pressing environmental issues such as deforestation and climate change. Moreover, the documentary highlights the tireless work of local scientists, giving viewers a sense of pride in Malaysia's natural heritage. For these reasons, the program appeals not only to nature lovers but also to anyone interested in meaningful storytelling. So this is our recommendation and why, the reasons. Okay. So to us, what makes it a good watch? Next, let's move on to the third paragraph. Equally important, watching such documentaries is highly beneficial for students. So we are attempting the third requirement here. First of all, they expand knowledge beyond textbooks by presenting real-world examples of biodiversity and conservation. Secondly, the visual format sustains interest and encourages independent research. As a result, students develop critical thinking skills and a deeper sense of environmental responsibility. Ultimately, documentaries like Borneo Jungle Diaries prove that learning can be both engaging and transformative. In conclusion, this series deserves recognition as Malaysia's finest nature documentary, one that educates, inspires, and entertains all at once. Alright, so that's the last requirement where we give opinion on the reasons why it's highly beneficial for students. Alright, so this is how I would attempt the review question. Right now we are at the last question for part 3, question number 5. If you chose to write a story, they asked us to end the story with this. We survived the island, but its secrets still haunt us. Do not edit this. Please end it with this. Okay? So this will be requirement 3 instead of requirement 1 because it should be at the last sentence of your essay. So you should also include in your story, describe what made the island strange or mysterious. Okay? Explain how you escape from the island. Okay, these two things must not be a touch and go things. It has to be quite substantial in your story. If you only mention in one sentence and then nothing is explained about this requirement, you will be penalized in some of your marks. Okay, so let's have a look at the sample I have here. The storm came suddenly, hurling our boat against sharp rocks. By the time we swam ashore, exhaustion had already set in. The island looked deserted, yet it felt oddly alive. At first glance, it seemed like a paradise. Lush trees, crystal clear streams, and fruit hanging low from branches. However, the silence was unnatural. Not a single bird called, nor did any insect hum. As night fell, the strangeness deepened. Okay, so we are talking about the mysterious island. Requirement 1. We discovered ancient stone carvings half buried in the sand. Their shapes resembling human figurines with hollow eyes. From that moment on, an uneasy presence seemed to follow us. Every time we closed our eyes, we heard whispers carried by the wind, as if the island itself was trying to speak. So this are still related to requirement 1. Okay, now we're going to the second requirement, I think. Determined to escape, we searched for anything that could help us. Eventually, we found fragments of our wrecked boat washed up on the shore. With great effort, we tied them together using vines and driftwood. Although the raft was fragile, it was our only chance. After hours of paddling, guided by stars and sheer desperation, we finally saw the lights of a distant fishing vessel. Okay, so this is the second requirement of the question, talking about how you escaped. In the end, the crew rescued us, pulling us aboard with disbelief in their eyes when they heard where we had come from. They insisted no one had lived on that island for centuries. We survived the island, but the secret still haunts us. So this is basically the last requirement of the story. So it's pretty straightforward. We talked in detail about what the requirements were, and not touch and go, and definitely nothing of distraction. Okay, remember, if let's say you have 2 paragraph or 3 paragraph or more of nothing related to the story, you will be penalized in some marks. Okay, not a lot, not like the whole five marks category gone, but it is bad because it will drop you from an A plus target to maybe A or A minus. So be careful. You don't drag the story unless it is required in the 1, 2, or 3. Okay, just please be straightforward with the story.